Yo. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Talk the Ting. All right. So tonight we have an interesting episode in keeping with the theme of entrepreneurship and young business owners, and that's what we're trying to push this month of June, which is also Men's Mental Health Month. I want to make sure that I mention that. We have somebody with us tonight. He's not a man of many words, but hopefully we get a lot of words out of him tonight. We can have some good conversations, right? Young businessman who's trying his hand in many different avenues in terms of business. We'll kind of talk a little bit with him and see how that goes, and what is his journey so far, and where does he see himself in the next 10, 15 years, right? But before we do that, I want to encourage everybody to share the live, please. We are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and also for those who don't know, we also have all of our episodes on Spotify, and also we have a TikTok page you guys can also follow as well. And again, I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in to the last few episodes. We want to make sure that we're giving you guys as much good content as possible. We're not chasing clout. We're not chasing, call it headlines. We really just want to give everybody good content, things that they can tune in and they can learn from, and that's how we want to do it. So with no further ado, let's bring in our guest. So, Mr. Andric, what's the word? You muted.
Good night, all things.
All things, man. How's everything?
Everything good. Can't complain.
Yeah, man. I see you sitting in one of your business places there, and I recognize it,
So I actually didn't plan to be here, but circumstances, I just adjust accordingly.
That's it, man. That's it. So that said, we want to thank you for coming on the show, man. We've been watching for a number of years, with you running a few businesses, and we'll get into a little bit into that. But we want to thank you for coming on the show, and with no further ado, let's get into it. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, where you grew up, what inspired you to go into business?
Right. So born in Granby, and raised in P7. That's my home village. So that's where I was born, raised, until we had to move, I guess about Erica in 2015 and whole relocation and so on. So that's where I grew up. That's where my family from, between P7, Granby, Bagatelle.
Mhm.
That's my family and so on is from. So what got me into business, I think I didn't always have that business mindset. I think it came about being around business people,
Mhm.
probably like 10 years ago or so. Being around business people and seeing how things happen, I think I got some great inspiration to go into business.
Mm. Well, people might say the talk the thing is a grand bay show. If you have plenty grand bay fellas on talk the thing, but that just saying that from the south of the island, we keep producing top-notch individuals. For those who say Salt City is a bad man place, it's also a good man place. You know what I'm saying? So, but Andric, you talk a little bit about your business there, but let's go back a little bit. So, where did you go to school? You said you born in Granby, grew up in Port Savan, but my assumption is you went to high school and everything in Granby.
Yeah, I went to PHL secondary. I was graduated in 2014. I was actually head boy at that time when I graduated.
Mm.
Like,
So you've
uh,
been a budding politician for like a while there. So you have a career coming up. All right, and then from there, you basically, you kind of maneuver yourself into the business world, right? After you finish
well,
high school.
actually, I went to college. I went to Dominica State College. I did mechanical engineering for 2 years,
Hmm.
and then I got just before graduating, I got a job um, at at EMS Limited.
Okay, okay, all right. So that's good, man. So basically, your journey stems from humble beginnings, going from Granby, Savan, grew up in Savan, and then kind of coming down to Tongside, going to school, like many young people have done. But so I mean, read a little bit about you and your story, right? You mentioned Erica there. I want to talk a little bit about that because I don't think I've ever really spoken to anybody personally from Petit Savan, and what was the impact that had. Because I don't want to brush over that, right? And how much that possibly changed the course of your life, right? Because that affected a lot of people. So give us a little bit of background, on that situation, the Erica, and how you guys had to end up moving and stuff like
Yeah, so Erica kind of happened, if I recall correctly. Stand correctly if I say something wrong. But this to my best of my knowledge, Erica, Tropical Storm Erica, it was 2015. That happened sometime in the evening, or kind of like, yeah, it was kind of evening when it passed. Um, Basically, hurricane, its is a hurricane,
that.
morning when you got up, you get to hear the news. Basically, we had a lot of landslides,
Mm-hmm.
where the river was passing as well, but
Mm-hmm.
anything on the river banks was severely damaged. People, the houses were gone. Landslides went over houses, and obviously you had deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but most, what I would say is that the most of the damage came from landslides and the rivers, from the river banks, and so where the root of the river, that's where we got lots of damage. And I guess we couldn't get out as well of the village because of so many landslides. We couldn't get
Mm-hmm.
out of the village. So they had to send boats and so on, coast guard,
Wow.
um, seaside. Everybody had to go down to the seaside. I mean, there are people looking for family and so on. So it's very, very
Chaotic.
devastating. Very
Yeah.
devastating, I must say. Sometimes,
Wow.
I flash back. I,
But how
and
do you feel? How do you think that has shaped you as an individual so far in your life? Because 2015, you're still a young man, right? You're still trying to figure out, what kind of path you want to take. What do you think that experience shaped you?
I think it led me to realize, I would say, like we shouldn't take life for granted. Um, Cherish your loved ones. I think it had a big impact in terms of me wanting to help people,
Hmm.
um, because of that. I think that was one of the most impactful things, from that on me.
All right, man. Before we go any further, rest in peace to everybody who lost their life in that storm. That was a very, I mean, that was a very big storm and affected a lot of people up that side of the country up to today, right? So I hope I didn't stir up anything bad there in your memory banks, but it's really just, I just kind of want to see what kind of shape Andric, you know what I'm saying?
Agreed, yeah.
Um, yeah, man. So, all right. So you grew up in Pitsavan. Now you started your first business in 2019. right? As far as I know, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So what business was that? And then despite well, you went to college, right? So I'm assuming you didn't. You did you pursue your studies any further than the Dominica State College?
No, anything else is like certifications and
Okay. Okay, so what gave you the confidence to start a business? Because many of us, especially like you say, from Granby, I don't know if your parents have money, but but in my mind, what tell you go school, become a doctor, lawyer, you know what I'm saying? Kind of thing there, get a job, secure yourself. So what gave you the inspiration to be able to open your own business and to have the courage?
yeah. So I would say that I'm an avid reader, and going back to my first point, being around people for a few years within the business sector gets to meet different people, entrepreneurs, that sort of people, professionals in their field,
Mhm.
respectively. Um, and I started to read. I read a lot of books concerning financing and stuff like that, and I think it grew on me to it's like after I was actually implementing certain things in terms of savings and so on until I got to a point like, boy, I have a money there and
Yeah,
I see that in my eyes and I have to do something with that. I cannot, it's like burning me to do something with it.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
see it there, I feel like I have to do something with
yeah.
it.
Instead of spending it, you check in. Let's go into business.
Yeah. So I check in.
Yeah,
I couldn't quite put my finger on it as to what exactly it was, but I always knew I wanted to do something. So I was saving up for something, but I didn't know what it was.
what it was. Okay. And so who taught you? Because funny enough, I was having a conversation with my little boy today. I had $10 on the little desk on the desk, right on my work desk. He came. He said, "Daddy, can I have that?" So I said to him, $10. Okay, I give you $10. What you gonna do with it? He tell me buy donuts. I tell him no. You have to, I tell him you have to save. I tell him how much are you gonna save? He tell me five. I say okay, save five. You can take the other five to buy donuts. But so I'm just thinking because a lot of people struggle with saving money growing up, right? Was that something that came natural to you, saving money, or did you have somebody in your life that always pushed that in your head, or based on your reading or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. My mother, yeah, my mother is one of them for sure. Spending habits.
Hmm.
It's very well. She always just lets us know, like she don't have money,
Yeah.
so well, we have to know we spend any money, use it wisely. So that always rang in my head. And then of course on top reading books, and really reading the different books. Yeah, I think that's right about that. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's good, man. I mean, and then you mentioned that you were inspired by different business owners, different entrepreneurs. Um, and were there any specific individuals you would say, whether it be locally or podcasts? I know you're an avid podcast listener. We talk about that already, right? So what was there any boy that you listened to and you were like, boy, all right, I like that person vibes. I like certain things about that person, or I like what I've seen and hearing.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the most impactful was Kalnasi, for sure everybody knows who's that. So that's one of the most impactful, I believe. So actually, I mean, for the years I've been working with him on one very closely. So I think that had a big part to play with that one as well. On top of, I would say podcasts. There's Robert Kiyosaki or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Grant Cardone. And then there's this other guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, that's people I listen to on a regular.
Mm.
So
So them people, you hear certain things, or I mean, in terms of locally Carl Nassif and working with him and seeing how he running his businesses and stuff, and also listening to these people, you feel like you learned, the art of kind of being a businessman and what it takes to be a successful businessman. I would say, right?
yes, I wouldn't say entirely. I'm still going through it, but
Mhm.
I think I've grasped a large portion of it for sure.
Yeah, man. Andrew, I gotta tell you, you know, I have much respect for people who open their business, bro, because it takes a certain level of courage for you to say,
Yep,
what, I don't want to work for somebody, I want to work for myself. And most of us, we go to school, we get a job, we say, okay, I want to take vacation, I want to do this, I want to do that. But when you're a businessman, every day you have to work, every day you have to work. There's no days off, right? So
yep.
how does that affect you? I mean, you're a young man, right? You're a young man in CO country. How does that affect you in terms of you wanting to
I
go out and everything and having to work maybe sometimes?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy. I would say it's kind of difficult. I think it gets better with seeing the success that you bring, but it's not easy as a young person when you see the majority doing certain things and you wanting to be different. It's a very hard thing to do in terms of, it's like you see a large set of people, the majority doing something, and then you try, you as a young person, it's like you want to be, you want to be in it, you want to be part of that.
Mm.
But when you think of the when you think of what you want to achieve, and where you want to go, it kind of brings you, different path.
So in your mind, you have a path, you have somewhere you want to get to, and you're willing to sacrifice certain things for you to get there, right?
For sure. One thing I realize about that, you have to sacrifice something. You have to sacrifice, and the more you sacrifice is the greater the reward. But you cannot want to be in business and not want to sacrifice.
Mm.
Would happen.
Yeah,
For
I guess they
sure.
say anything worth having, you have to work hard for it, right? So I know that you have a car rental business, you have a restaurant which you're sitting in right now, and you're also into real estate, right? So I don't know where you're getting time. 24 hours in a day. I don't know how many hours you sleep in. Apparently they say businessmen doesn't sleep, but but what was some of the biggest obstacles? I guess let's go back to your first business, right? What was that business? Which one of those? I'm saying that was the car rental,
Parental.
right?
Parental, yeah.
So what was some of the biggest obstacles you faced when you were trying to start that business?
I think one of the biggest obstacles was knowing where to go to do certain things. I think is a real challenge for people who want to start a business. In terms of, how you have to go, how you going about getting registered, what is the right way,
Mm,
who you have to talk to. It's like it's very broad. Like, even if you go to do something and you do it, but then you did something, but you still, it's like you register your business, but you still don't know what to do. How they give you a taxpayer's identification and number code, but
mm,
then you just have it, but then you don't really have somebody explaining to you what exactly that means. What do you do with that? What do you do
mhm,
at the end of the year? That sort of thing. So I think certain things like that, even the process,
mm.
patience. You have to have a lot of patience, I think. And I think that's one of the things with me. That's how I overcame those things. Because I'm a person with a lot of patience. So I think that's how I got through those things, because there was some real obstacles in terms of that.
You
It's
think
just,
you Do you think that is exclusive to? I mean, I don't know if you have any other business interests or businesses that you are involved in outside of Dominica, but do you think that's exclusive to doing business in Dominica? Because we had Imad on last week, and he mentioned some of those same things in terms of not kind of knowing, if you don't know who to kind of go to, there's no real manual to say, okay, well, if you open a business, do this, do that, blah blah blah.
if it's limited to Dominica, I mean, I haven't done anything outside of Dominica per se, so I wouldn't really be able to say that. But I do know that these things can be improved for sure.
Mm. Okay,
They, they,
okay,
they can be improved. Certain things can be implemented, for sure, for sure.
all right,
To
all
make
right.
it just simpler. Like, I mean, if you're going to start a business, I would want to think like at least you have like a central location for something, or something that you in one location, but you, even if you have a different department elsewhere, but
Department, right,
at
right.
one location, you should be able to do majority of the things in that location and have a good understanding of what you're supposed to do at the end of that.
Right, right. Excuse me. So so you have the car rental business, and right now you're sitting in your business. Why is it your business name? I mean, I know it, but I want you to say it.
Pride De La Dominique.
Pride De La Dominique. Oh man, why is sneezing that? I get that sneeze then. And so, and in my mind, both of them are growing nicely, right? I mean, I spent a lot of time in your restaurant there when I was in Dominica. A nice little spot on the corner on the bayfront. For those who don't know, right in the corner on the bayfront. And how did you identify that those were um kind of businesses or avenues, right, that you wanted to go into? The car rental business, the food business, because those businesses to me don't really, it's not like to say like this similar, right? It's kind of two different two different things. And then also real
Yeah.
estate as well.
Yeah, so I think the way that I'm going, I think like I'm like a serial entrepreneur. So in terms of I don't see myself doing one type of business. I see things based on opportunity
Hmm.
and what can make the best out of it. So I get a lot of ideas go through my mind in terms of different businesses. So like I told you, I did like before even the car rental, I didn't know I had funds, but I didn't know what I had to do something with it. I didn't know what. Um, I cannot recall. I cannot tell you for. I can't remember how. I can remember how I came on car rental for sure. Can't remember for the restaurant. So it's actually three parts. So we have three. It's a partnership between three people.
Hmm.
Uh, we were very close friends, and I mean, based on the level of trust and thing that we developed, we decided that, and we all had that same kind of mindset.
Hmm.
So we decided to incorporate a business together. Um, so it's KG Investments is the parent company, right?
Okay.
Which stands is basically the first letter stands for the first name for each of us. So you have Care, which is K, Glendale, which is G, and Andric is A. So it's KG Investments.
Okay.
So when we started the business, we had ideas of what we wanted to do, so we kind of incorporated the business with those things in mind. Um, and we actually did a show. We were promoters for a show. We did a show in Super.
Mm.
Um, I can't remember the name or what we call it. But we did a show. Bouillon on Compa. That's what it was. Bouillon on
Okay.
Compa. So we did a show in Super. That was our first kind of business that we did.
Business, right.
So that basically was just trying to bring some kind of vibes back to the area. So we
Mm.
had Compa, we had Ecstasy Band, we had Tributy, and we had some DJs to mix it up. So that was one of the first things that we did. And we always been meeting up, talking. We just couldn't identify what we wanted to do at the time. And then one of the guys came and he said, "Boy, look that place on the beachfront for rent, boy." On the thing. He said, "Boy, they were saying, boy, you think you should take that way?" I said, "What you do there, man, whatever." And I was like, "Boy, we can do the same vibes." And we start talking, we start
Yeah.
throwing ideas together, and we start to do some rough costings of what we would have cost and stuff like that. And what is the opportunity that we had at hand. And you see, because the thing is that we always do business at the ferry because of the car rental. So
Hmm.
kind of saw we kind of saw something of what could have
Oh,
happened.
you see a kind of a synergy there.
So you kind of saw
Yeah.
what have happened. So we sat down and then we decided we'll be taking it.
So all you agree, all you taking all the money when people call on the pod, all you giving them the car, but if before they take the car, all, all you making sure they full their belly. I like it, but I like it. I like it. I have to say, bro, I mean, really and truly, when you think about it, a lot of us have ideas, ideas. But it sounds like you guys have ideas and you're actually pushing it through. You're actually saying, okay, let's do this, let's do that. and looking into it, doing the research, like you say. So, shout out to you guys. But how do you think? What do you think sets those three kind of business ventures apart, right? So your real estate, the car rental. I know you talked a little bit about the synergy, but the food business and car business is not exactly the same thing. But you guys kind of making it work. So how
Yeah.
you think how you think those things differ amongst each other?
Well, I mean, they differ greatly, because so Howard says that already full. Well, I mean, with the restaurant, you have a lot more dynamics in terms of you have to be more consistent in certain things. You can't run out of this. You always have to
Yeah.
have this. Your inventory have to be on point. You have to you know dealing with employees. We have 10 employees.
Mm.
We have 10 employees. So dealing with employees. Wages. You have a lot more things to deal with. Um, making sure the kitchen has what it needs, ensuring the place you have all the necessary licenses. You have to go through food handlers, you have to basically certified, get fire services involved, a lot of those things to kind of get that going, making business relations with different suppliers
Mm-hmm.
for wholesale. So on the car rental side, we don't have as much employees. We don't have much employees. Basically, we have two people, and anything else is outsourced for the
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, so I think so the car rental is I wouldn't say so much time consuming as the restaurant. But what we do, we basically have a system now for the car rental, and then the agent just goes out and rents the cars. We have issues in terms of mechanicals. We have dedicated mechanic that we do business with.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say the car rental is yeah, both customer service centric businesses, but it differ in terms of how they operate. So as I said, the restaurant, you have to be more consistent with a lot of things. You have to be on cue, a lot more on cue with
make sure
things.
make sure you're not running out of BB. Make sure you have. But
Like,
I mean, it's really interesting though, because I've always heard that the food industry is difficult to be successful in, especially a restaurant and them kind of thing, because it's exactly some of the same thing that you mentioned, right? You don't
yeah,
want to have too much inventory on hand. You want to make sure you have just enough. You know what I mean? That type of stuff.
yeah. So in an effort to help us, because it is, but what we realize is that a lot of food places, they don't have systems to give them data,
Hmm.
right? So that's why we had to invest. I mean, we started without it. We always had the intention of getting it prior to starting, but then we had to make a decision starting without it for start generating funds, because I mean we have already the system not there yet. We have to make a call. So, but the system, what the system does, we implemented a system that will let you know exactly what are your fast sellers, what is the slow sellers, what days are your fastest. So you get a lot of data to help you to make business decisions in that sort of thing. In terms of hours, everything is clocked in. You get your employee hours. You like I said, what sells a lot, what doesn't sell. So you get that data to make better
Hmm. Better informed decisions. Yep. So you mentioned something there that has been a big topic of conversation for many of us, um, especially people who come from the US, or I guess the UK or wherever. Customer service.
yeah.
And in Dominica, a lot of people will say that it doesn't exist, which I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I've been to places where you have really good customer service. I've been to places where it needs work. How do you guys handle that in terms of, in America they like to say the customer always right. I don't necessarily agree with that, but how but how do you guys handle that? You mentioned customers. You have two businesses that are heavily customer centric, like you said.
Yeah. So, well, for the car rental, I think that's what kind of allowed us to grow in the character aspect for me, because I got a lot of reviews. We have a lot of reviews, maybe over 100 reviews on Google, and
Hmm.
customers that they actually tell us why that's why they keeping coming back. Because what happens is that we don't when we rent a vehicle, we don't just rent it. We kind of want to help you to make the experience accommodating so and very seamless. So I mean, we rent the vehicle, we ask you, where you going to be staying. I mean, that's information we want to know because sometimes we have roads that are closed in Dominica. It's on you don't want the tourists to go like a common one that they make. They go all the way pizza and to daily stories as well. A lot of
Yeah.
them they a lot of them they what they do is that they kind of hop to different hamlets. So the first they might stay in Roseau for 2 nights, then they go to Portsmouth, then they go to La Plaine. So but what they do is that they don't know the roads are blocked and then they
Right.
end up going through and then they get down sometimes vehicles damage, they get
Oh
stuck
wow.
and stuff like that. So we try to prevent that beforehand by asking those type of questions. We let them know that yeah, you can use Google Maps in Dominica, but it's not exact as in first world countries. So you might once you start to get off of the main road, you stop and ask the question. People are very
Hmm.
helpful. So that sort of thing. So we give them tips and guides beyond the current experience. So they so I think that is one of the things for the current that brought us along in terms of customer service, following up as well, even in the rental period. Sometimes you just rent the vehicle and you just see this until you come back.
Yeah,
You rent
yeah, yeah.
for 2 weeks. Sometimes maybe mid-time, maybe between if you rent for 3 weeks, maybe on the second week you might ask, we go if you're doing Jamaica, blah blah blah. You know,
Yeah.
for the restaurant, it's a bit more troublesome because now I mean we know it, but then you now have to train employees to go about how to go about it, how to deal with irate customers. So it's a little bit more tricky, but it's a learning process. So we always huddle together, call a meeting. If we see that something that's wrong, call a meeting. Customers see this, we let them know what the customers see. We take a step back, analyze, and we go again.
All right, all right. I mean, I will tell you, man, that is a huge, huge, huge part of. Not, I don't want to say any just customer centric businesses, but any business, to be honest, because
Yeah,
your business can thrive and die based on what somebody say on Google nowadays. So it's very important, And I come down sometimes and you go to a bar and it's like, okay, you there, you drinking, and in my mind I saying, boy, why I have to ask for that a drink now? You see, an idea, you know what I'm saying? Like, just keep it coming. You know what I'm saying? So it's all them little things, that kind of making people comfortable, or like you in the place you eating, you talking, but every 2 seconds like somebody watching you, like like they're uncomfortable, like you there, like them kind of thing. So it's good that you guys are concentrating on that. I like that you say you guys are using a lot of data to kind of drive your decision making and not just kind of looking at things from a guessing
we have
standpoint.
we have something that we say to the staff that we want to give the customers like customer service on steroids.
Well, that's good, man. That's good, man. That's good. And I think I spent quite some time in your place there, so I think everything looking good so far. So I know that your interest is not only business, right? And you're also a music man. So, and for those who don't know, we had Andric brother on the show a couple weeks ago, Massman, the producer, and I wanted to ask Andric, you know, if he just wanted to be like his brother, he go into music as well.
So that's an interesting one. So how I actually got into music was at a very young age. I think I was probably still in primary school. And my mother brought me to Carolina Park. And I think at the time Nasio was playing. That's when he had a lot. I know a lot of people remember that because that was when he had a lot of rain in the park. And Nasio Fountain was playing, and she always gives that story. She said, "On last year on stage, I hear making like I playing guitar, and then a Rasta man passing and they tell him, and she telling him, you need to buy a guitar for that young boy. Buy a guitar for him.
Yeah.
And she bought the guitar and then I went to lessons. There's a guy called Derek Francis in Bagatelle. That's so I learned to read music and do blues and stuff on the guitars by him.
Mm.
Also as well, Digital Vibes by my brother, as he said, Masman, and his some young guys in his age group. They had a band. They started a band they called Digital Vibes. And the band house was just below where we were in Pink Seven. So as a young boy, while we were practicing, I used to come there, look at check out the vibes, little boy. Until so back then, I'm not sure if you know Odell Lamington is the guitarist of Tribute
Yeah,
Accessible Band.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
So he actually taught me as well on the guitars. And I started to play music in church as well. So that's why I was actually playing drums in church
Hmm.
back then. I was playing drums, and then we used to alternate between drums and guitars, and so I think that's how I actually got into music.
So you're a man of you can play multiple instruments. You say what you saying?
Well,
Keyboard, drums.
I would tell somebody I'm a drummer or a keyboardist, but I would tell somebody I'm
You,
a
you,
guitarist,
you
but
can play it. You can play it if push come to shove.
yeah, I can do something.
Yeah. So how does that? I mean, again, you're a businessman. You have multiple businesses you're running. I know music is an important part of your life. I mean, when I met you years ago, I met you through my brothers them and from you coming here to play music, right? So how does that? Does music tie into any of your businesses in any kind of way? Meaning, you know, the passion you had, like you talked about with your mom, and she bought the guitar for you, and you went to lessons, and you did all these things. And it sounds like you did some of the same things in getting involved in your businesses. But how does the music contribute to your entrepreneurial spirit in any kind of way?
Well, I think one of the things music I realized music has led me to or got me to focus a lot. And I think that's how it impact business wise. So if I say like going to do something, I would focus
Mhm.
on doing it and getting it done. But I think music, because of you see, you have to be so patient with music, like learning the guitars, you have to it's like you're doing the same thing over and over to get it right in music. So
But I, la-
so
I laugh it there because I tried how many times, bro. I just don't have the patience, bro. I
yeah.
have to laugh.
Yeah, that's the thing. Music, you doing the same thing over and over to get it right, and I think that's what that helped me a lot in generally to keep focus on a lot of things. So that's all. I think that's one of the I think that's one of the main things for me. If I had to kind of correlate all of this
Mm.
together.
And in music, music is synonymous with creativity, right? So it kind of ties in that way as well, right? In
I
terms of you
guess.
figure right, coming up with different ideas, or you gonna do your businesses, music, all that type of stuff. How do you switch between those two worlds though? Like when you have to go and play, music, and then let's say, okay, let me give you a scenario. You're just about to go on stage to play, and somebody message you and tell you, boy, this and this happening at Pride De La Dominique. What would you do? Like, what is your trade off thought there? Because you say you just focus.
Well,
So,
well, um, I mean, most times I play it's nighttime, restaurant shut down,
restaurant close.
restaurant shut down. But in the event that I travel for music and then something comes up in the restaurant, if I can help with your, I mean, if I answer that on stage, so I would send a
Mhm.
message and say, "Well, I can't attend this right now. Check with one of the directors." Um, Same thing for the rental. So we have an agent, and so I always try to do things before and give everybody as much information as possible. So if I know I'm not going to be available within a certain period, I basically give all information beforehand. So I know no questions asked, you know exactly what to do. And I have peace of mind. I don't have to worry about that
You don't have to
while I
worry. So you plan. You don't plan to fail. That's good, man. That's good. That's good. So looking ahead, are some of your next big goals? Right? You say you're a serial entrepreneur. In your mind, you're just gonna keep opening businesses. What new projects you have on the horizon? What's in your mind? And whatever you have in your mind, make sure you check me. I'm myself interested in getting involved in that business too.
I don't want to say too much. Now, as you say in the beginning, I not a man. I don't know whether let's talk a lot, but I think I have some big goals. I have some really big goals. Trying to see how I can say it.
You trying to fake, trying to say it, but you don't want to give away too much. We lose Andric, man. It look like Andric having a little bit of a technical difficulty there. But while we wait for Andric to come back, so for those who are in the chat, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask this young man, you could post it in the chat. We can we can ask him. It sounds really interesting that young man from Dominica, has all these goals, right? And it sounds like he has used a lot of different means and methods to grow not only his businesses, but it sounds like he uses different means and methods to grow himself as an individual, which is very commendable. So I think, does anybody have any questions? Just post it in the chat. Let's just wait for Andrew to come back with us. But you know, it sounds really interesting that this young man has kind of carved a way for himself. You know, in some times where people might say, "Oh, Dominic, I don't have nothing to do," or "Dominic, I don't have this," "Dominic, I don't have that," we always seem to find a way to complain about what we don't have. But Andric has made it work. Andric is back with us. No,
Yeah,
yeah, Andric.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
I got
Yeah,
some.
man. Yeah, no, no problem, no problem. So you were kind of thinking of a way for you to not tell us what your next big plan is, but but yeah, we're not gonna press you too much on that. We'll watch and see what you have coming.
You hear about me. That's the best I can say.
So okay, with that said, now where do you see yourself in the next 5, 10, 15 years then? As a businessman or a music man, whatever plans you have.
I mean, next, 5, 10 years, 10 years from now, I see myself as a well-stamped businessman in Dominica. Well-stamped. I think I think in 10 years I'd be wanting to make a greater impact in the economy in Dominica specifically.
Hmm.
Um, and also I think I want to be very helpful in bringing up a lot of young people to give them inspiration to do something and to let them know that sometimes not because you like somebody like what I would say is that I'm one of the persons that always that always had the intention of traveling to study or to further my studies.
Hmm.
But at the time I didn't have the means.
Hmm.
So I think I'll be one of those people to show that it doesn't necessarily mean that there's more than one there's more than one way
Yeah.
to
Yep.
get there.
Yep. Yep.
So
I want a question I just got for me to ask you there. Somebody asked me, you say you still have a regular 9 to 5. Somebody tell me to
yeah,
ask you that. So
yes.
you have a regular 9 to 5. You have a business. You're a music man. How many hours you have in a day? You don't sleep, man.
Boy, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I don't sleep.
Wow.
Yeah. I
What's
think
is
now,
it?
I think before was worse than now, because now I think I got to understand the importance of rest and so.
Mhm.
But before, I was a bit more, I think I was a bit more aggressive. I used to sometimes 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and 7, 8 o'clock I up again ready,
Boy.
eating it.
That that might not be too sustainable now. Eh?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So I mean, over
Yeah.
time I realized, that not, they're not cutting it if you really want to continue and do certain things. So I think prioritizing a lot. Um, that's a lot of people tell me. Boy, he's a hard man to find, and so he's knowing what to do, and making the best use of time.
Time management, very important, right? Very important. So, what's a lesson you have from your journey so far that you wish you had learned um earlier?
Hmm.
I mean, you said you started in 2019, in 2025, so about 6 years into your journey.
Yeah.
But what, is there something that just pops out at your mind like, boy, if I knew that? Like I was telling people, if I go back to fifth form, boy, I'd be rich. I'd start Google, I'd do this, I'd do that. But, but what do you think, you know, you wish you knew earlier?
What I think I wish I knew earlier. Hmm.
Or is there something that, you recently learned where you're like, all right, boom. It don't have to be nothing crazy, It could be like you mentioned earlier, you have a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm.
And, that might bode well in some instances, and that might be bad in some instances.
That's true. So okay, so yeah, you click something there. So yeah, I think I think one of the things I wish I knew earlier was probably that being too nice might not always be a good thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I was always the person that somebody could just come and ask, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't hesitate without asking no questions. Just but sometimes some people might not always want the or be asking with the right intention.
Hmm.
That sort of thing. So I think that was one of the things that I wish I would have known earlier or learned earlier. Um, because I've got burnt
Hmm.
a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've got burnt a lot. And I think I realized that, or got to know about that a bit late. But it was lessons learned for sure.
Yeah, but that's one there for sure. I can tell you is something that like because I was just thinking when you say about patience, I seen, and that's what came to my mind, right? You have a customer service business, to a couple customer service centric businesses, like you said, and you might have somebody that maybe need to get caught, but in your mind you're checking, boy, let me give them like a chance, let me see, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And more and more is like it getting worse, no improvement, and you kind of not pulling the trigger,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of burning you. So that's good. That's good. It's good that that you have the lessons learned and you figure out, okay, that's something that aware of it, aware of it. Not that you're not gonna be nice, but you know when to kind
Yeah,
of cut it
exactly,
off.
exactly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I want to ask a couple questions that we getting from the people in the chat there. I'll just bring that in a little bit. So we had the first question from this individual. What advice do you have for young entrepreneurs in Dominica who constantly feel faced with roadblocks in their business?
And don't give up. That's one thing. I mean, you in any business of starting anything, you always encounter roadblocks. So I think going through the process of becoming a business person is like you have to change certain things within yourself
Mm,
first before even being actually to because certain things you change within yourself that will allow you to go further and grow. So I think going through the actual process in itself is like a how I could say it.
Mm.
Um, it's like going through the process itself is like is like a beauty in itself because you changing, you learning certain things based on that, and it's like it's molding you to become and put you in a position to want to grow up or can grow into something bigger. So I think people struggling in Dominica, I'm not gonna say it's easy. It's not. Um, Sometimes you're just gonna feel like you gonna give up. You want to give up, especially in Dominica where
Mm.
certain things might not be streamlined. Like you go there like this, you go into a loan, the bank have to sell it. Go for everything. Go for your mother, land paper. So those
Alright.
things don't. I would say to them, don't let those things discourage you. By all means, try different things, but don't give up.
What's the what you just said? Don't give up, keep pushing. Um, what's maybe the biggest attribute or the biggest skill you would think somebody would need for them to kind of practice what you're preaching, right?
Well, what I would say sometimes I look at things in a scheme of like you said, where I see myself in 10 years. So I look at things. I say I see myself here in 10 years. Now I look at this roadblock, something I might take, even though it takes 2 3 months. But at the end of it, I know, hey, that's where I want to be in 10 years. This is minuscule and where I want to
Yeah,
be in 10 years. So I
yeah.
will do what I have to do to get it done because it. I mean I mean looking at it in a 3 months, if whether it takes a month or two, but at the end of the day, 10 years, that's where I see myself. So I think of it, hey, this is this. Let's get this done, or let's get over this, because in 10 years, that's not where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in a different place.
You're focusing on the bigger picture, not necessarily
Yeah,
allowing, the small things to kind of stumble
yeah.
you, over.
Hmm.
That's good, man. And then what the my last question for you is centered around kind of bringing it full circle back to your beginning, right? To going back, you growing up in Pitisava, and I don't know what sport if you're playing sports. Some young fellas never play sports, so I don't know if you play sports or not. But what a lot of times, right? We say like people's circumstances or their background, or their mother, their father, their brother, whatever it is,
Hmm.
you know, kind of prevent them from doing certain things. And what advice do you give to young people? And you're a young man yourself, so maybe it's advice you would take for yourself. But what advice do you
Hmm.
give to young people to kind of ignore their background, their circumstances, and push towards a goal? Like kind of like what you've been doing and you're doing so far.
I mean, um, so it's like, okay, so based on their situation, because everybody have situation, everybody have different scenarios or things that they go through. They might encounter or face difficulty in life. I think one of the things what I would say is that trying to figure out how I can say it. uh, I had it right there, I lost it.
Nah, man,
Um,
take your time, no worries. It's just really the background, right? The circumstances. Is it, do you feel like people kind of use that as a cop out to say, like, boy, I grew up there, or
yeah, as an excuse.
as an excuse? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you have to. It's like you kind of have to. What I would say is that you get yourself out of that place, because at the end of the day, you stay and go. How I look at it, right? I say, okay, you stay and you complain. Nothing are going to change.
Mm.
You just gonna stay complaining. So I mean, at least do something and see if it works. You don't want to stay complaining and say, hey, this is the reason why I didn't do that. At the end of the day, nobody not gonna do it for you.
Yep. Yep.
And because of those situations, I mean, everybody goes through, like I said, different things. I mean, what you got to do, what I or how I look at it is that you cannot get yourself away from that. So it's like me constantly reading. different books about different people or being around a certain space or people with a certain mindset, that kind of pulls you towards or closer to where you want to be. So you don't want to keep yourself in the same position, talking to the same set of people that are going to back up,
Hmm.
back up what you say and say like,
Yeah.
"Hey, because of my brother or my mother," and they say, "Yes, boy, if it wasn't for your mother," huh? So you have to be in a different space
Yeah.
because that I think that has a big part to play in it. Like who you, I think who you surround, like a lot of people always say that, or even I remember my mother always used to say that the people that are around you can have a great impact on you, and I believe that. And even if you don't get people around you that have the same kind of mindset as to where you want to be, you isolate yourself. So sometimes isolation is the price that you pay to get what you want.
Mm. Wow. That's a strong message there. That's something actually I never thought about. The isolation part of it. You
Yeah,
always hear
because
people tell you who you are wrong and all that stuff, but sometimes you better to be wrong yourself.
I mean you looking at it and then you want to like you might think like nobody else because if you go in a certain space you it's like you might be blocking yourself because you really clean your potential because you're certain might be around a certain place and then you really clean yourself because everyone else is like
Yeah.
but if you know what or you have an idea of what you want to do and I mean nobody else not kind of giving you that same energy. I think if you isolate yourself, you occupy yourself with books, people that you look for, like I said, podcasts, listen to people that kind of will motivate you and get you in that space until you reach a certain point, and eventually you get to a point where you actually start to meet people thinking like because you put yourself in that
In
position.
that space, yeah. You mentioned book and podcast. I said I had one last question, but since you mentioned book and podcast, I can ask you one book and one podcast you would recommend.
So one book I always share to people. I meet or they tell me, that some people talk to me and they say like, um, I really want to do something. So I have a book PDF and I always send it to people that ask those questions. It's called Law of Ambition.
Mm.
So I have that book PDF and I'll share it with many friends. And I always have it. Sometimes I myself I've maybe read that book maybe 5 times already. And
Mm.
always now and then I always read certain things from it. So that's one book. Podcast, Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone.
Yeah, Grant Cardone is a real estate investor in America. And he kind of started like with nothing, and then he's very blunt about how he says these things. He get to you flat out how it
Mm.
is, and it's something I feel like I can relate to. So I,
Okay.
I I listen to him a lot.
All right, you guys heard it here, So if you have any young people it don't have to be young people. Let me not discriminate. People, old people can start businesses too, or older people can start businesses too. It's never too late. Once you're still alive, you can still do something. So, read, podcasting. It sounds like those things have been very helpful to Andric. And again, following, or putting yourself around the people who are going to kind of motivate you to push yourself into the space that you want to be. So, Andric, before we go, we're about to wrap up. I want you to tell the people a little bit about the businesses, plug your businesses, man, and tell people where to patronize and and tell them who did that nice little design for you on the back wall there thing.
All right, so you have Sooner Rentals and Services, car rental offering car rental services. We also do importation of used vehicles for personnel. Um, I also have Pride De La Dominique. We have restaurants kind of providing both local and French cuisine. We also do a lot of people might not know that we also do cakes. So if you want
Mm.
like a birthday cake, you can get a full cake. We can also do catering as well. We can do catering to pies, meatballs, croissants, quiches. We do catering as well. If you want a special service for catering, we do that as well. Um, Background that was done by my good partner Martin Jude. So he actually does airbrushing. So you guys can, if you have any airbrushing jobs, I mean, it's not based in Dominica, but he might plan a trip based on the jobs he might get.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But Andric, boy, I want to thank you for coming on, bro. It's been a good conversation. To be honest, I've learned a lot. You almost, I don't say almost. Now you motivate me there to, to try and do something with myself in the business land. So we might be talking a little bit,
After,
So
no problem.
yeah, man. But yeah, man, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank everybody who tuned in to the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you guys learned something. That's the whole objective of what we're trying to do here. Again, I'm gonna say it again. We're not about chasing clout. We're not interested in degagement and all that kind of thing. There, we want to talk real thing, real positive vibes. And if degagement come as part of the positive vibes, then so it go. But we're not looking for them kind of thing there, right? So with that said, thanks everybody for joining. Again, tune in next Wednesday. We'll have another episode again, still centered around businesses, still centered around young people trying to do, their thing, and tune in next week. Share the video, please. Like the comment. Like, comment, subscribe. Look, somebody tell me what is degagement. If you don't know what is degagement, I got. I don't know how do I explain degagement. Nonsense there, nonsense. How can I have rigmarole? I can give them another word. Or do rigmarole. But anyway, have a good night, everybody. Stay safe, and thanks for joining.
All right. Good night.
Good night.